From a young age, she learned that the world was not always a safe place. At the age of 5, her childhood was marred by sexual abuse that lasted year after year. The perpetrator was someone who should have been a protector, an adult she could trust. Instead, she was made a victim of something she could not understand, which shaped her perception of herself and the world around her. As she grew older, she thought it would stop, that adulthood would bring safety and control. But the reality was quite different. At 17, while walking home one evening, a car pulled up beside her. "Would you like to come home and clean for me?" asked the man behind the wheel, with a look that left no doubt about his intentions. She hurried away, hoping his words and gaze wouldn't follow her. On the streets, she was often catcalled, words she had not asked for, compliments disguised as offensive remarks. She tried to ignore them, but they lingered nonetheless. She began avoiding certain places and carefully planning her routes, always with an underlying fear of what might happen. The city nightlife was no refuge either. It was a place where strangers' hands found their way to her body without her consent, where she had to push away intrusive men who believed her refusal was just part of a game. She often stayed close to her friends, but even that wasn't always enough to avoid the discomfort. One night, after an evening out, she took a taxi home to be safe. But safety dissolved when the driver suddenly pulled onto a dark road and locked the doors. He began making demands and tried to coerce her. Her heart raced, but she kept her composure. Luckily, she escaped, and he was later convicted of indecent exposure. Still, the experience left deep scars, making it difficult to trust even the most mundane interactions. Recently, she took her daughter to the swimming pool to create happy memories. But even there, she was confronted with inappropriate behavior. A group of men stared at her, followed her from one pool to another, and one of them repeatedly tried to make contact despite her clear attempts to avoid him. When she finally sought refuge in the women's changing area, things got worse. One of the men walked in while she, her daughter, and another woman were there, nearly undressed. He ignored their protests and seemed unfazed when confronted. The pool staff did nothing to remove the group, leaving her with the unsettling feeling that her safety and well-being were not a priority. This series of experiences has taught her that the world often makes it hard for women to feel safe. From the cruelties of childhood to the daily confrontations of adulthood, she has fought to find her strength. But she has also found the courage to speak out, to report, to share her story, and to demand a world where women don't have to live with fear as a constant companion. She knows she is not alone, and her voice matters. Every time she shares her story, she lights a candle in the darkness and inspires others to come forward. And while the world still has a long way to go, she will never stop fighting for a future where boundaries are respected and women can live without fear.